Welcome to Do It for the Gram, an Enneagram podcast with your host, certified Enneagram coach, Milton Stewart, where we do it for the Enneagram, not Instagram. We make moves to improve ourselves and our communities. This is the continuation of the part one with Ahmad Wazir. This may be part of like the best interview I've had. No offense to all my other guests, they're great people and the interviews are great, but this one is a treasure and it's a gem because it is rare and hard to get Enneagram 5s to participate in the podcast, and it's even more rare to have Enneagram 5 who's actually done some real growth work and able to speak on it. So you're in for a treat on this one. Listen in as we continue from part one.
I have a coworker that's a 7, and this guy, he brings so much energy into the room, man, and he's a good guy, and then when I talk to him one-on-one, he resents the fact that people see him as this guy that's live and funny and everything, but he's such a smart guy, but people don't see that.
Yeah.
But he struggles with that because that's what he presents, but at the same time, he doesn't want to be typecasted like that, man. So I kind of see the struggle, that he goes through as a 7, man. It's something else, man.
Seriously. Okay, so speaking on that, that is something that all of us 7s, struggle with. So I have used my 8 wing and I've used going towards a 5 in situations where it's like a professional situation. I've used those two to present myself in a way more calm, professional way. So I'm not, put in a box like, oh, he's the funny, live, exciting person. And that's it,
Right.
So I understand his struggle 110% because that is something throughout life I have struggled with, but being able to use my 8 wing and then going towards the 5, being straightforward, being able to put my foot down and become more grounded in those situations,
Yes.
I'm able to present myself in a way that's like, oh, okay, because we do have to be careful because what we present is usually what people are going to mirror back at us.
Exactly. Yes, sir. Absolutely. It's funny you mentioned the 8, and I have been accessing a lot of that 8 energy. That's my path of integration.
Mm-hmm.
And it scares me. I'm not gonna lie to you because I talking to Jason again the other day. I said it's like Spider-Man when he I think it was Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man 3 when he got the Venom suit on. Yeah, it's like instead of me retreating, now I'm all of a sudden attacking, and that energy. So so now as I've been doing inner work, I used to hold stuff and everything. I don't hold anything now. Right. So if there's an issue with somebody, I'm coming to them and everything, and I'm resolving it. I don't hold anything, and that's that 8 energy, and I kind of like it, but it scares me because it's very, as a 5, I'm so calculating and everything, but that 8 energy is just like boom, it's like attack, right. And I'm trying to learn how to be a little more delicate with it, you know what I mean? But yeah, the inner work that I'm doing is kind of forcing me to, not forcing me, but it's helping me to access that. So I don't hold anything anymore, man. It's a beautiful thing,
Right, because 5s and 8s are super direct people for the most part. Well, 5s are more direct, where 8s can be blunt,
Yes.
And you moving there, only thing is the 5 usually without growth would keep that directness in, and it may come out every once in a while, where the 8's letting it go freely. And so, integrating into that,
It's funny, man, because there are some 8s at my job and they're misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I love 8s because, like you said, because I like people to be direct.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's not socially acceptable, and I have this saying, I said, a-hole is somebody who says to your face what everybody else is saying behind your back. You know what I'm saying? So I like that. Like, yo, tell me what you're thinking. I don't like passive aggressive and people being phony and everything, man. Especially the older I get, the more work I do on myself. So, man, I have an affinity to 8s, man, because they are going to give it to me straight. And that's what I love, So, yeah, man. So that's a whole other story.
No, trust me, I understand. I appreciate Eight's that bluntness too and directness. It's like at least I know where you stand.
Exactly.
If nothing
Exactly.
else,
Yeah.
I know where you
Exactly.
stand.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
Um, so what would you say is for you the best part about being a five?
Man, I joke with my teacher Aunt Gary. I'd say, I was on a panel and I said, knowing everything, I know everything.
Mm,
I don't know
gotcha.
everything for real, but I know a little bit about a lot of things, and so
Right.
I'm able to relate to people on I'm very open-minded. Let me say that. I know I don't know everything, but that's a joke I say with myself. My wife, she jokes with me about it. But being very open-minded, man, being able to adapt in any setting, man, and like, give you an example, back to the conversation I had with Jason. Jason is a first generation born Chinese American,
Hmm.
and we sat, and it's our first time really meeting outside of the conferences that we went to, and we sat and had a 4.5 hour conversation. We talked about everything,
Wow.
man. You know what I'm saying? And I
Yeah.
mean, we talked about culture, and he talked to me about the Chinese culture. I talked to him about the Black experience in America,
Hmm.
movies and everything, and being able to having the freedom to get out of that box. And that's what I love about being a five, man. We're not afraid to engage and explore and deal with different cultures. And I love that, man, just being open-minded. So that's the
Right.
best thing I love about being a five, man. Absolutely.
Mm, I love that response. Um, what would you say the biggest struggle of being the five is?
Oh man, the biggest struggle of being a five is just being, making ourselves available, man. Giving. Fives can be very stingy. I mean, and not necessarily. I'll give somebody my last, man, but my energy. Like my best friend is back in Richmond. I'm from Richmond, Virginia. He's an 8,
Hmm.
and I mean, this is my like brother. Like for years. Like we known each other for 30 years, but I can count on one hand how many times he had been to my house. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I danced at this man's wedding, and you know what I mean? Like we went to elementary school together, but I'm so guarded, or at that time, so guarded with my personal space.
Right.
And the hardest thing is just that scarcity mindset, man, that it's not enough. I don't have enough energy. So man, I withhold, man, and I'm cheating a lot of people out of, when I'm not aware, man. I'm cheating my children out of quality time because I feel like, oh, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough energy. I'm cheating my wife out of quality time when I'm not aware. I'm cheating the world with not sharing the things that God has put in me, man. And so that's the
Right.
struggle of being present, man, and breaking out of that scarcity mindset, which I'm working on, And somebody just gave me a good book called Who Switched Off My Brain, one of my coworkers, and it involves journaling and everything, man. And so I've been looking for practical things to help me to break out of this scarcity mindset, man, because it's just robbing me, man, and in turn robbing the world,
Right.
So yes, sir.
Yeah, because I feel like fives have so much to offer the world, in like almost every facet. But as a five, they can be doing repressed, and so it's kind of like they got all the great ideas, but they're not expounding them or spreading them, I guess I would say, to other people. So I definitely think fives are a gift to the world that's like little to unknown right now in some circles.
Absolutely, man. And it's just, but we can get locked in and take pride in our ego structure. A lot of times I see that with fives. It's almost like there's an arrogance with us, like,
Mm-hmm.
that we're antisocial. It becomes we're not to celebrate that. You know what I'm saying? We got to
Right.
work on that. You know what I mean? But you're right, man. And some of the Enneagram books is like, yo, man, stop preparing. Like, just start where you are, because even where what you know probably more than 90% of the people in that
Yes.
area that you're doing, because you've been loading up information for all these years, but stuck in
Yep.
preparation mode, man. It's terrible. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
right now I'm dragging out this class, man. The course that I'm on, man, I could have been finished it, man, but I think it's a fear
Right.
of I don't have enough. I don't know enough. So it's bad, man, when I'm not
Which,
aware.
which is crazy. I'll talk to a five and they'll be like, well, I was in this meeting and these people were saying the dumbest stuff. It didn't make any sense. They didn't really think about what they were doing. I was like, what did you say? Nothing. They weren't going to listen. I was like, but you got to say something. I mean, you have the missing link here.
Right.
You see the pattern that has been going on forever that they can't catch, you know?
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, definitely. That is, good point. Definitely. Most definitely. Secret gift to the world. Does your workplace stink because the culture sucks? Are you tired of tolerating people and wish you could all work together cohesively? Does the mere idea of going into work give you anxiety? If you said yes to any one of these, you should probably quit your job. But since you're not going to quit your job, you should contact Kaizen Careers. At Kaizen Careers, we are all about improving workplace performance. We use a unique tool called the Enneagram. The Enneagram helps individuals and organizations become more self-aware. That self-awareness lends into helping organizations with communication, conflict management, and leadership development, ultimately turning self-awareness into self-mastery and creating healthy workplace cultures so you can improve your services and bottom lines. Contact Kaizen Careers at KaizenCareers.com or Milton at KaizenCareers.com or give us a call at 901-334-1644.
There's a young lady that I work with, and she's a 5. And I didn't know she was a 5. Very, being aware now and seeing a 5 in real time or whatever. But so I thought she was kind of like, she's very quiet.
Yeah.
And I thought I was speaking like this person, she just, okay, maybe she don't like me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But she was a 5. Once I realized she's guarding her energy. And so I can imagine how I may come off to people, because sometimes we come off as stuck up. I've been called stuck up before. Aloof. People misjudge me before they get to talking to me. They think that I'm just like this nerdy guy that, that can't talk about anything but Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, you know what I'm saying? And then they get to know me and they just see like, this guy is, he's funny. So a lot of times people judge us because, they fill in the empty space. They see that we're quiet and we're detached and everything, man. But, yeah, man. So we can come off and we can be arrogant. So I just had to keep it honest, but we can come off very arrogant, very, off-putting, man. And, but here's another thing. We're very sensitive, man. This is a misconception of 5s because we don't show a lot of emotion.
Right.
It's like you taking that shell off that turtle and exposing that. See, emotions are like taking that shell off that turtle and exposing that part that the shell covered, which is like, oh my God. So we're hypersensitive, man. So when we do open up to people and, and then people hurt us, it devastates us. It'll send a 5. You can send a 5, man, back into the life of being a recluse, man. So when you have a 5 in your life and he's honest enough to share how he really feels, the worst thing you can do is invalidate their feelings because they're making themselves vulnerable. A 5 has to really, unless he again has a lot of personal work or whatever, but even with that, a 5 has to really trust you to be vulnerable. And when you violate that, man, we're real sensitive, man. You know what I'm saying? People don't know that because we don't show it. But oh man, we're hypersensitive.
Man. So like 3 or 4 things popped up in my brain. I'm gonna see if I can get them all out before I forget them. So one thing is that when you talk about like a 5 being like seen and like sensitive and like being able to be understood. So in our young adult group, we have a guy who comes around every once in a while, and he'll just kind of like be there, just sitting, not really engaging. And then he's just like, observing. At the time, I didn't know he was observing. I couldn't tell what it's like. Is he just not interested in being here and someone invited him, or what? Um, and afterwards, we got to talking about the Enneagram. And so I was like, let me ask him some questions. And so I had him take like a quick 2-question test, um, which I don't necessarily recommend for taking tests. But if he's a 5, 8, or a 7, most likely they're going to get the right, number.
Right.
So he takes it and it comes out to a 5. So I just start asking him questions about, like, do you usually look for patterns? Are you observing? Like little things that 5s typically do. And he was like, yeah. And so for him to feel seen changed everything for him, like in our group. And so like he actually, the next time we saw each other, it was a Wednesday night, like at a church devo. He came up to me and asked me for like my number so that we could like talk about like the Enneagram and stuff, because he felt seen. So he went from not communicating to anyone and then just leaving to like, oh, so someone actually can understand me. Don't think I'm just like, an outcast or anything. So it was really cool to see that, because I said when he came to me, I noticed, because I understand the Enneagram, how huge that was, For a 5 to come up to me and be like, oh, let me get your number real quick. I was like, whoa, like this is a big deal,
Yes, indeed. He felt safe with you. And again, you hit on something, man. I'm glad you said that. We want to be seen. You know what I mean? Right. We want to be engaged, but we don't want to risk it. You know what I mean? So when you made him feel comfortable, and that's the thing, man, you got to come and get us sometimes, man, because we'll hide. You know what I'm saying? And we want to be drawn out a lot of times. We act like we don't, but we want to be drawn out, man. 5's gonna be mad at me to hear this. Like, you're giving all the secrets away, man. That's part of our arrogance sometimes. Is like we're above it all, man. But that's the compulsion of the personality, our fixation. That's not. We are social creatures, man. Even self-preservation. I'm a social 5, but we're social creatures. We just want to be related to. So that was excellent, man. And we had my teacher here in Charlotte. I got 2 teachers, but my local teacher here in Charlotte, she had a social gathering, and one of her students, Dana's a 9, and Dana knew, I don't know, instinctively she went and grabbed me when I came in, because it was big for me to even show up. It was an informal thing, and then Dana took me and introduced me to people, and I just thought that was beautiful. I thanked her for it, because I was looking for a hiding place. I felt uncomfortable. I didn't know nobody, there, but a couple of people, and so immediately, like, she knew what to do. And even in these workshops I go to, I look for, I'm sitting in the corner, I'm not sitting in the front, and they gradually bring me in, man. But they're just happy I show up. They have a hard time with workshops. It's hard, in my understanding, for to get 5s to come, and I understand, because it's just too much emotions, man. Like the last one I went to, man, it was beautiful. Don't get me wrong, I loved it. I enjoyed it, and I grew so much from it. But I understand why 5s don't go, man. I cried, and it was just, oh man, it was just a lot. It was intense, man. But I grew so much from it, man. But I understand they have a hard time getting 5s to engage like that, man. So you gotta kind of get us and grab us sometimes,
Right. And so I think, and one thing, when you said who you were working with was a 5 prior, and you were talking about how, like, at first you didn't know, and then it was like, I guess this person doesn't like me. So as a 7, before I knew the Enneagram, and 5s I would work with, I would be intrigued to try to figure out who they are. And so what does a 7 do when they're intrigued? Now I talk a whole bunch and ask a whole lot of questions, and I'm just moving and I'm all this. And I've run some 5s off. 5's like, all right, this guy is a little too crazy. I'm going to back up. So I've done that. And so, but now understanding, 5's much better. I'm like, okay, calm down. Just ask them questions. Let's figure out what they are interested in and where we might meet. And then we can actually have a really good conversation. So I was like, okay, calm down.
Absolutely.
Man, because I've run some 5s off in my life.
That's not hard to do.
Man. Hopefully you have found some value in this podcast episode. You can help to keep this podcast going by supporting us on patreon.com. Patreon.com is a site where you can support content providers. Podcasts are free to listeners, but not free for creators. It actually costs money and definitely time to produce consistent and weekly podcasts. I podcast because I want to reach people and change our community through the Enneagram. If you want to help in that by supporting me, you can go to patreon.com/doitforthegram. That is
so you mentioned about you going to the different conferences you go to and the workshops and the classes. Can you explain to people how, as a 5, you deal with feelings and emotions?
Oh, man. Yeah, man. Great question, man. I really enjoy this line of questioning. You saying as far as in the workshops or just in general?
In general.
Well, I don't like to show emotions because, again, I'm a control freak.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a 5 can be a control freak. We don't look like control freaks. You know, those 8s. But again, like 8s and 5s have a lot in common. So emotions are too messy. I'm not in control, and It's sloppy. And so I repress emotions a lot of times. But the more work I do, and like, man, you know, it's funny, man, because everything makes me cry now. You know what I'm saying? At one time I wouldn't cry, but like I always tell people, like, the movie It's a Wonderful Life, I love that movie, man. I watch it every Christmas when they show it. I cannot watch it without crying, or if I just see something that's just somebody displaying genius and excellence. But yeah, man, emotions, because with a 5, what we do is we record how we feel. So if you and I are having a heated discussion, I'm going to sit and listen to you, and you're like, well, what are you feeling? What are you feeling? I'm like, no, I'm just listening. I'm going to go home. I'm going to play that back in my head, dissect it. And then I'm going to come to you maybe in a couple of days. I say, you know what? You were right, man. You know, I was off. But to ask a 5 to, we use our emotions on credit. We don't carry cash when it comes to our emotions. We use credit. You know what I'm saying? We got
That was beautiful. Yes.
You gotta wait a couple of days, man. You gotta wait 3 business days for the process, and then you'll get the emotional reaction because we're not in control. It's like, wait a minute, let me process. So a lot of times, my wife and I, again, she's a 2, so it's important for her to, you know. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, no, I'm just listening. No, I want to know what you're thinking, and give me a couple of days. I'll think over what you said, and you know what, you're right. I was, you know, being an idiot right there or whatever. Now I'm going to admit it, but it's just not at when you want me to. So that's part of the 5, man. Our emotions are like, we have a delayed reaction to things, which is good in some instances. True. Because I've been in like driving in situations where if I panic, I would be dead, but I'm just so cool that I don't react to things. So it's good in one sense, but in another sense, when it comes to relationships, it's not necessarily the best asset to have.
Right. Okay. So I have I guess about 2 more questions, and we'll wrap it up. What advice would you give another 5 who is embarking on the growth path?
You know, be present. You know, and I thank God for this job that I have, because again, the jobs I've had, I mean, I've had a lot of different jobs or whatever, but a lot of jobs I had, I didn't engage with people. But because the nature of the light rail system, unlike other transportation systems, it's like one big body. So I had to come out of my shell and learn to be present and make connections with people. And I would go, people who train me on our breaks, they would, hey, let's go have lunch. And so it taught me to be, find some kind of way that you can engage with people and not pride yourself on and take arrogance, because sometimes we can think we're just above everybody, man, because these people have emotions and I'm so logical and everything, not realizing that we're just hindering ourselves and taking pride in our ego defense, which is not our essence. So yeah, be present, and then I like to run, and that's good for me. I learned to run and get in our bodies, man. That's another thing, physical activity, man, find something that you like and do, because, we can just be so stuck in our head. and life can just go right by us, man. And we're, we got all the stuff in our head, but we never actualized it. So, those are things I would say.
Definitely. That's good stuff. All right. Well, is there any last words that you have, or either how people can reach you, if you want them to reach you, and that type of information?
I appreciate the disclaimer, okay, it's a 5. He might not want to reach him,
Yep.
I'm Ahmad Wazir, man. You can find me on Facebook. I'm working on some things now, so I have, but, in the future. But I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. And no, I encourage those who are listening, man, to continue to work, to work on self, and even those who are students of the Enneagram to continue to work and not make it a religion where we just show up and we're not actually doing the inner work or whatever. We're trying to save everybody else and not ourselves, man, but just to continue to self-work, continue to read things and better ourselves, man. And no, man, I thank you, man. It's an honor. It's a pleasure, man. And I thank you for having me on.
Appreciate it. Thank you. This is absolutely great. Probably have to have you on a future episode. All right, so I'm gonna wrap it up. All right, so that's all we have for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Please rate, subscribe, and share. That is rate, which helps others find the show. Subscribe to get the latest and greatest episodes, and share if you feel this information can benefit someone you know. If you need personal life coaching or career coaching through the use of the Enneagram, you can do it through my organization, Kaizen Careers Coaching and Consulting, LLC. You can contact Kaizen at kaizencareers.com or Milton at kaizencareers.com or 901-334-1644. Also, if you would like to be a Patreon supporter like Isidore from Canada, you can go to patreon.com, do it for the gram. The Patreon community has more access to exclusive content, merchandise, and input on the podcast. Last thing, if you go to doitforthegrampodcast.com and subscribe, you can receive a free gift. It's a PDF of each number. You can also read some really good blog posts from different numbers. And if you're a 5 and you're feeling like you want to be reclusive in a space where you know you shouldn't be, pause, make a better choice, and do it for the gram, the Enneagram, of course. Thanks for listening.